All right, it is time for an update for the let's see, what is this? Oh, the Drag Week group build hosted by Mr. Taylor Brown. And we're all familiar with Taylor Brown. He's been in the community for a little while, and he's hosted a couple of builds before, as well as posted a lot on Facebook. So if you don't know Taylor, go over and check out his channel. He does some pretty good builds. He's got some pretty awesome dragster tribute builds going on right now that are part of the Drag Week group build that he's hosting. So with all that out of the way, let's show you what we're working on. We're working on a Mustang 2. Yeah, I know, that's a very interesting choice, right? But I happen to pick up this kit. Let's show you the box there and get this guy out of the way. But I happen to pick up this kit about a year ago, and I've been kind of itching to get to it, and this was the perfect opportunity to do so. This is a 2005 release of this kit, and I believe this was originally done in the 80s sometime. Rambler69, I'm looking at you for any backdate on that information, but I can't be too wrong. I mean, it was a Mustang 2. How many times did they actually produce that kit? It's actually, I thought it was going to be sort of a headache to work with because it's an MPC. It's a little bit on the vintage side mold-wise, but it's turning out to be actually pretty fun. There's some soft detail when it comes to the engine and suspension, but otherwise it's a pretty well thought out kit. Now we're going to be doing this video in two parts, and this is of course part 1 or /A, and the reason why is because this this particular Drag Week build for me is a 2-part build. Pardon me. So let's see here. The body is actually really nicely done. There was only a slight mold line along this edge here and along the fender there, which we were able to clean up very easily. The front clip is actually molded in place. I thought somebody already put this on here because I did buy this at a vintage shop, but no, this is actually molded in place. I just cleaned up the seam line there a little bit, the body panel line there a little bit, and it looks great, and it's pretty square. The body doesn't have any shift to it at all, but it's looking sweet. Look at that. Look at how the word Ford is molded on there. It's very nice, and it's going to be easy to pick out later on. And our door handles and stuff like that are nicely molded as well. So either this was a really well done mold, or it hasn't been repopped that often, so it hasn't worn out so much. But the interior for the engine bay, that's not too bad. Other than the ejector pin marks on there, that's pretty nicely done too. So I'm really liking that. The interior, it's got this nice little roll cage, and when I say little, it is little. It does come out to be a little bit narrow than it needs to be. I can pop it out. I haven't fully placed that in yet, but I would say that if I was building a sandrail, that would be perfect for that. Other than it's a little small for this application, but this would be perfect for a sandrail, I think. One thing we did have to watch out for on this guy here was the little feet here that go up underneath the dash. We had to clip those. It turned out to be a little bit too long, but other than that, it was a fine little build. The kit does include an original style dashboard with some aftermarket gauges and an aftermarket tachometer and stuff, so I tried to leave everything as much as I could authentic wise, but I do like the fact that it has these rivet detail throughout the interior. I decided to go ahead and do to brush on some aluminum paint to give it the look of fabricated metal, and it comes with a couple race buckets, and I'm laboring over the decision of whether or not to do some harnesses in there. And since it's a dragster, I probably only have to do the harness for the one seat and just like a lap belt for the passenger, but we'll see how that goes. The engine, I said earlier, was a little soft on detail, but it can lend itself to even more detail. I painted mine in a metallic blue. So here's the backstory that I've come up with for this particular build. We have Joe Mustang, and Joe Mustang had an aunt that lived in Southern California in the Los Angeles area, and back in the late 70s, early 80s, she actually was a fashion model and private investigator who worked for a guy that she'd never even seen in the flesh before, but always heard over the phone. So she and a couple of her friends ran a detective agency and had these cars here where they're runabouts for the city of Los Angeles. And when she retired, she decided to donate her car to her nephew, Joe Mustang. And he's had this in his garage for a while, and now he's decided to go do drag week, and he's looking for something he could pro stock. And this was the vehicle of his choice because it was handy, it was easy to work on, and because I wanted to use that as the backstory, I went and found some really cool video on the Google, and I found this picture here. And that's the color scheme we're going to shoot for on our car. I did like the box art, but I didn't like the decals. The decal sheet is rudimentary at best. It looks like somebody squirted some mustard down the side of the car. And then the firefighter font looks like a ransom note. So we're just going to ignore all that stuff. If anybody wants those decals, let me know. I'll be happy to send them to you. They're just gonna, otherwise just going to be in my decal drawer, never getting used. So yeah, we're going to just like take the car and like he wheeled it out of the garage and then pro stocked it out and then went off to drag week real fast. So let's show you the wheels and tires. Those are turning out pretty well. Kit chrome, which we just frosted with some matte paint, was Krylon. No, excuse me, Rust-Oleum. Matte paint, and then I did some gel pen work on the Goodyear logos. Those turned out pretty darn good because the lettering is raised up so high on that it takes the gel pen really well. And then our chassis built up really nicely. It's nice and flat. I like the fact that they even molded in the hard points for the for where the roll cage is supposed to attach. I thought that was pretty fun. And then I also like the fact that the fuel tank is actually molded separately also, in case you want to delete that and do a fuel cell or something like that. So that's kind of cool too. We also see the holes are still there for where the original leaf springs would be, but that's kind of fun because they have this gigantic tub opening here. So I don't know, but it's looking like they actually modified the Mustang 2 molds to do this, both here and on the body, because it looks like they opened up the radius on the rear wheels there by quite a bit. And I'm wondering if they ruined the molds to make this kit. Who knows? You know, this kind of stuff happens. I've read several stories about model makers doing that kind of thing, updating a mold and then never being able to backdate it. So if anybody has information out there about that, that would be kind of fun to know. So one thing that I do not like in engine compartments are floating alternators, but I can live with those as long as we don't have to deal with a floating battery. And this one had a floating battery. So I decided to make a battery tray out of some L-stock styrene and a little battery tie-down strap too. And yeah, it does look like a battery sitting in a diaper right now, but once we get it all painted up and stuff, I think it's going to look pretty cool. But I'm really kind of getting the hang of scratch building. I'm liking it a lot. As a matter of fact, part 2 of this video, you'll see a little bit more scratch building. So the only thing that had a major issue on the body was the fitment of the hood. And I'm thinking that this hood is a separate mold unto itself because of the hood pins. I know they probably had a Cobra 2 version of this kit because this kit did have the Cobra 2 chin spoiler, as well as the ducktail spoiler. It's supposed to go on the backside here, but this didn't fit so great. We added in a strip of styrene on the back there, and then we're going to start carving that down to match up, and then that took care of all the fitment issues there. But thank you for tuning in for this bit here. We're going to move on to our second part of the build, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. Talk to you a little bit later. Bye now.